design-oriented mindset helps you a lot in life. Handing it over to Hannah.
From choosing color palettes, images, and such, designing gives you the ability to think outside the box. It makes sure that your ideas are communicated effectively and in a visually pleasing manner. A good design allows us to create a positive experience for users every time they view a website, a poster, or anything as such. Now, a question for you: what motivates you to learn design? Feel free to type your answers in the chat.
Now that we discussed what design is and why it's important, what about the career opportunities in design? What do you guys think design has to offer? Design offers a plethora of opportunities. The art of design is about visualizing your emotions. Taking up design as a career has many learning objectives like project management, portfolio development, design theory, etc. There are also many opportunities to take a work placement in any industry. You can also get a lot of work experience while pursuing design.
Thanks, Rishita. We'll now be getting to the fundamentals of design, starting with colors. Next slide. Colors can either make or break your design. They form the basis for determining the visual appeal of your design and help to put emphasis on important elements in the design. Using good colors can really help in grabbing interest and attracting one's attention. Isn't that what we all long for? Color theory plays an important role in helping us use the colors effectively. I think most of us here are familiar with the three types of colors: primary, secondary, and tertiary. These are just basic categories that we split colors into, and you can see how they are divided in these color wheels. However, how does knowing all of this actually help us? Here are some of the most common color schemes: monochromatic, complementary, analogous, and so on. They help us pick certain colors that go very well together. We've also mentioned some of the links that can be helpful to you while finding the right color schemes for your design. Handing it over to Avika.
Thank you, Ahana. A common mistake in design is not using alignment tools because one feels that it looks all right visually. Even seemingly unnoticeable misalignments are observed subconsciously and can divert focus from the actual design. On the other hand, alignment helps in organizing different design elements, creating visual connections, and improving the readability of your design. As we can see in the two examples given above, the first does not follow the fundamentals of alignment, whereas the second one does, making it look more clean and professional as a whole. Next slide, please. Despite its name, white space does not need to be white. It can be any color, texture, pattern, or even a background image. White space is basically unmarked space in a design. It is commonly categorized into micro and macro white space. We call the small space between design elements micro white space. It is usually found between lines and paragraphs. On the other hand, macro white space is the large space between major elements and the space surrounding the design. Typography is basically arranging text in a readable and aesthetically pleasing way. It involves font style, appearance, and structure of the text. Here are two examples. In the first example, you see that it has a non-uniform font size and unnecessary underlined portion. The text is arranged without any hierarchy. Whereas, on the other hand, you can see that the other text has an appealing font and is arranged in a proper manner. It is uniform and clean. A common confusion is between fonts and typefaces. Typefaces are also known as font families, and what we usually call fonts are actually typefaces. For example, EB Caramond is a typeface, whereas EB Caramond Normal, EB Caramond Medium, EB Caramond Medium Oblique, etc. are fonts within the typeface family. There are three types of typefaces: serif, sans serif, and display. We usually use serif or sans serif fonts in UI, documents, and body text. Sans serif font families are most common and feel cleaner and more professional, while serifs have a slightly older and more antique feel to them. Display typefaces are usually better for graphics and posters. One thing to note is that too many clashing styles can be very jarring. We recommend sticking to not more than 2-3 typefaces that work well together. Handing it over to Ahana now to elaborate on the importance of visibility in a design.
Thanks, Avika. So if the person viewing your design is squinting their eyes to read or see something you've made, you're doing something wrong. Visibility is one of the key aspects of design that helps you add emphasis. You should always avoid using light colors over light colors and dark colors over dark ones in order to ensure all elements of your design are easily visible. You can see the visibility difference in the example given on the side as well. To understand this better, let's have a look at contrast. Contrast is much more than just opposites like black and white or large and small. It is essentially a difference between two or more elements or layers in a design. This can be through color or size. It also helps the viewer to concentrate on the focus of one's design. Good contrast can even play a major role in improving the visual appeal of your design.
Now let's have a look at some examples of good and bad designs, along with what is wrong with the bad ones and what makes the good ones good. In this example, the first design on the top is a bad one as it does not have enough contrast between the colors. The text and other elements of the design are not clearly visible. Hence, the design does not have a good visibility as one cannot make out what is written. The blue color in the notification icon does not go well with the other colors. The circles in the background divert the user's attention from the main focus of the design. On the other hand, the circles in the second example are made in a subtle way that they do not divert the user's attention from the main focus. Let's have a look at another example. What do you think is wrong with the design on the left that makes it bad and the one on the right good? You can put your answers in the chat. Also, there is no correct or incorrect answer here. You can write whatever you think does not look good in the first design. All right, so there are a lot of responses in the chat and most of them are correct. We can conclude that there are numerous problems with the first design. The first and the most noticeable one being that the text is not clearly visible. The color of the text is not contrasting with the color of the background. Secondly, the elements in the design are not properly aligned, which means the heading does not have enough margin, and the text of the article is not properly aligned, which is leading to non-uniform margin between the two posts. Thirdly, there is a lot of white space present between the byline and the article. Fourthly, as we see in the background, the cubes hinder the readability of the article in the first design. On the other hand, the opacity of the cubes in the second design is such that it does not affect the readability of the content. Hence, we can conclude that all the errors which were made in the first design have been rectified in the second design, and the second design has a good color scheme, appropriate contrast, uniform white space, and uniformly aligned text. Now we have Adibhav for a live demonstration.
Hi, thanks, Anna. So I'll be fixing this very bad design live on slide. So it'll just give you an idea of how you would go about it. So the colors here are, so firstly you would figure out what all is actually wrong with the design. So the main thing that you can see is that the colors are very bad. The green clashes a lot with the purple of the title. And also the body text is not very visible because it's a dark blue text on a dark blue background. Thirdly, there's a lot of different fonts used. There's like 4 different fonts where I think even just 2 would be sufficient. And the title font is not very legible at all. And also the alignment for the title box is very off. It's going out of the bounds of the box, like the blue box. So to go about fixing it, the first thing I would do is just change the colors a bit. I think we can get rid of this background box because it does not really serve that much of a purpose. So I'll just delete that. Then I can go for a similar dark blue color for the text because it works with the white background. I think like somewhere around here, and we'll try and go a little darker, but again, not too close to black because pure black is not always the great. Then for the box, this bright green is just not working at all. So we can go for another similar color to the one we used for the text, but just a little lighter, like maybe that. And then we'll need to change the text color as well because it's visibility and contrast. So I think just white would work here. Sorry, wait. Yeah. And for this made by line, the red just it doesn't fit in with the rest of the color scheme, and it's just kind of unnecessarily an extra color. So we can just make that the same color as the body text itself. Now to fix the fonts, I'd probably stick to maybe 2 sans serif fonts, maybe Comforta for the title, or actually that board, and I'd increase the font size a little, and because there's some unnecessary spaces in the middle, so we can remove those. Then for the font in the body text, we'll obviously want one font throughout the entire body text. So maybe Chivo, like, and the font size are very different between both. So we want to make that uniform and remove the underlining because it's unnecessary and there's nothing we're trying to really put emphasis on here. And we'll stick to the same font for the byline as well. Now to fix the alignment, you want to firstly center align the title. So from here, change it to center align. And then we'll keep the body text right aligned so we can, but it's very, like the margin just doesn't make any sense. It's way too large. So we'll move that and try and snap it to the side of the box. And then for this, also we want to, wait, sorry, this isn't Geo, right? So for this, we'll just make it right aligned instead of left aligned because it's a byline and it's towards the right. So having a right aligned thing, sorry, a left aligned element on the right side won't make any sense. So, and then we can move that out. And I feel like the font here is not working well because it's a very rounded font, whereas the body text is not. So I can choose some other font, like maybe Avenue, and then increase the font size a little because otherwise it's not differentiated from the body text enough. So we can maybe make that 16 and make the body text smaller. And also the text box here is not fully, like it feels weird because there's a really large margin here. So we can, instead of making it left line text, we can justify it, and that just looks a lot cleaner. And yeah, so the box here, there's just too much white space around the title, so we can make that a little smaller. And then move this up as well. so as you can see, it just looks generally a lot better. It looks a lot cleaner. There's a good amount of white space everywhere, and like it's not jarring to the eyes, and there's good contrast between all the elements. So this is how you would probably go about fixing a design. You can obviously add more background graphics, and you can keep editing, and every like your solution will probably be a lot different to mine because everybody has very different styles. Um, yeah, so now I think it's on to Ananya, who will be telling you about different softwares you can use as well.
Thank you, Adibhav. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or an experienced designer. Using the right tools can multiply your skills exponentially. Many design software programs such as Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Affinity Designer, Photo can be used to create beautiful and creative designs. Here at Exen, we'll be focusing on using Adobe Illustrator and Figma. Next slide, please. Adobe Illustrator is a paid vector-based software and a powerful design tool. It enables you to create anything from single design elements to entire compositions as part of a larger design process. Among its many uses, Illustrator is used by designers to design posters, symbols, logos, patterns, and icons. In spite of the program being complex and requiring a significant amount of time to fully master, it is quite simple to learn the basics and create work with a professional appearance. If you need any help with the installation process of the software, be sure to contact us. Next slide, please. In case you're wondering, Figma is a free web-based application we use mostly for designing user interfaces. It's a great app for those who are into UX or UI design. You can use it for all kinds of graphic design work, whether you're designing mobile app interfaces, prototyping designs, or crafting social media posts. Furthermore, this software allows 2 or more people to work simultaneously on a project, thus offering real-time collaboration.
Hi, now we'll be going over some helpful links. Now that we've discussed several fundamentals of design, these are some helpful links that you can use to practice and to get an idea of what is going on here. Adibhav, can you move on to the next slide? Right, so first off, we have a designer's code of ethics. This is a great article to go through when you're beginning, and it really gives you perspective on what design is and what exactly you can do with the work that you make as a designer. Then we've discussed about typography a lot. We've discussed alignment, we've discussed fonts. So an interactive tutorial to really practice that is given in this link. We will be sharing the slides, so you'll have access to all of these links later on. We have an article on so this is not an article, this is a great website, typeful.com. It has a lot about typography, about fonts, and you can even download free fonts from this site, and it has great fonts. It will tell you what fonts go well together, what are the trending fonts, how everything is, and all of that. Then we have another article on color theory. So we sort of touched the surface on what color theory is and how it will help you in your design. But it's actually a very interesting topic because you get to know about how the colors interact, how different types of colors work together to bring out a certain mood in your design, whether it is a website or an illustration or whatever. You can do a lot with the colors that you choose, the hues, the saturation, the shades, and all of that. So this is a great article on that. Then we have more on hierarchy and element, and with this you sort of get an idea about how your design is and how it's presented. Yeah, then we have more on typography and a lot of stuff, so you can go through these and you can go through the learning resources that we have on design. Yeah, so these are all quite helpful links that I've found. So yes, next up, I think it would be good if we have a sort of live demonstration on Figma because that's a software that we use a lot. Um, Adiba, do you want to present your screen?
Yeah. Just a second.
Someone asked if we can use Canva for graphic designing. Um, it's not recommended because we don't really use Canva for competitions or any club work. We recommend you stick to Figma and Illustrator, or Affinity products are good as well. Then you have Photoshop and all of that. But Canva is not something that we use or recommend. Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this is just what you'd see when you open Figma, and it's not very like there's not a lot you can see, but there's a lot you can do with Figma. So some of the basic tools would be just your move tool and your scale tool. Um, then here you have frames, which basically to just create a frames is essentially like where you would design like your work canvas essentially. Um, then you have all sorts of shapes. You can create lines, circles, rectangles, etc. So one thing that you can do with uh, Figma is when you create a shape, if you create a shift, you can make a like it makes it a regular thing. So same with circles. If you want to create a perfect circle, you use shift and create. Um, then we have the pen tool. Now, pen tool is what you would mainly use for illustrations and such. It's very important. So it kind of hard to get at first, but when you use it a little, it yeah, basically you get it with time and practice. So what you do is you can create shapes with this, and basically just a box here. And one thing you notice is that when I want to make a straight line, it snaps in and becomes orange. So that is very helpful when you're basically trying to make something symmetrical. Yeah. And then once you create a shape, there's this on the side, which is a little confusing. So first thing we have is stroke. So with here you can change the color. So I'll just make it white so it's easier to see. And then you can also change the opacity. So 30 will make it very light and you can't really see it. And then 100 is full opacity. And then here you can change basically the width of the stroke. So if I increase that, it becomes way larger. You can also change where it is. So if it's in the center, it will be around like the shape itself. If you do it on the inside, it'll be towards the inside, and outside, obviously. So yeah, I'll keep the center for now. Then there's also fill, which is fill. So you can change the color of what it is inside, and yeah. Then here obviously is for size and stuff. This is a very important thing where if you want to create rounded corners, this basically you can increase the radius, and if you go far enough, it basically just makes it a circle. Right. It's an oval because it's not a square, but if it was a square, yeah, it's a circle. Then yeah, so that's pen tool kind of recontrol, and you can also when you don't have to create straight lines, you can also create curves. So what you will do is if you create one node, but this is the node. So if you click here and then if you drag it, you can see these like handles, and you can use these to basically control the curve of the line. And if I go here and then like that, so I've created like a wave type shape. You can also create a straight line and then use this. When I go into the edit mode, I can use this tool, the bend tool, and I can use that to edit my curves. I can do that, and I can even edit existing ones. Alternatively, you can also just move these handles around to change what the curve is like. So obviously, the longer it is, the further it goes. I personally prefer to use the handles and click the drag method. I just find it a lot easier and quicker when you're making a lot of points. And we also have text boxes, which work as it would normally. So here you can choose your font. It has a lot of fonts. I think most of the Google fonts will be present on Figma. And then if you want to use downloaded fonts, then you have to download a separate thing or you use it as the app. So yeah, like something. So I can change the font to say railway, and then I can change the size from here, and then font weight and italics and such. So you need to make it a lot bigger. You need to select it. And then it's too big. Um, and then you can change the color from here. So you can make it red, or yeah. And you can also change the opacity. So the color picker works essentially the same for every element, no matter what it is, whether it's fill or stroke or text. So yeah. And then it also will show you what other colors in your document. So supposing I want to choose the color that's already there, instead of having to find it again, I can just select it from here. Yeah, and then supposing you want to get a really bold text, but it's not bold enough for the normal text, you can also add a stroke with this, and then just increase the stroke a lot. Yeah. Then this also like letter spacing and alignment, and yeah, this is all. The more you use the software, the more comfortable you become with it, and the easier you find it to use this. It can be a bit overwhelming at times, but yeah, it's also one of the more beginner-friendly software. Like if you open up something like Illustrator, it has a lot of tabs and bars and can be really scary at first. And yeah, sorry, another thing I forgot is the layers bar. So when supposing I have this box over this thing, right? So what? So I can move this box out of the frame, and then if I move it over here, now obviously, supposing I wanted the box to be over it, you'll see the order here is how what the order would be, like what order you see it in. So the higher it is, it will be above it basically. And yeah, you can move stuff around. You can also use stuff like masking, which is a bit complicated. So if I put this on top of that, but yeah, that. And then I select both of them, and then I can mask it. Right. So it basically masks the rectangle on top of the shape of what's below, and then I can also add more stuff to it. So if I move this over, it will only show up on top of the the, the vector I made earlier. Um, yeah. So this is just like a brief intro, very basic just to the tools of Figma.
Thank you, Adibhav. Can you please present the slides again? While this always seemed very basic right now, I promise you it gets better, it gets more advanced as we go ahead, as you get comfortable with the softwares. So now we'll show you a few designs that we have made to give you a better idea of what you'll be looking forward to.
Right. And in the meanwhile, Arjuman had asked how we can download Figma on our PC. They already answered it, so I'll just sort of add on to it. There's a link called figma.com/downloads slash. So you can go there and you can select if you have a Windows or a Mac. They have different links for that. And if you have a laptop that is not compatible with anything and it's very old like mine, no, don't worry about it, because Figma works great on the web as well. So like just go on figma.com and you can start doing whatever you want. It works great. And yes, as Shoaib mentioned, there's a Figma Education Pro plan, which we highly recommend because it allows you to have multiple collaborators on your file. It gives you a lot of freedom, and it gives you a lot of access to a lot of tools that Figma has. And for the educational pro plan, use your institutional ID. So yeah, there's a use for that. So here's the link for downloading Figma. Uh, you can go ahead, Adipa. So this
Okay,
is,
this is
yeah,
the,
sorry.
sorry, Sneha, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the main illustration that we made for the Exon event this year. This is isometric, which is a form of design. It's a little more advanced as compared to the basic 2D design. But there are various plugins on Figma which you can discover, which helps make it easier. Next slide, please. Okay, so you're using Adobe. These two illustrations are made using Adobe Illustrator. You can make basically anything, any characters, your favorite books, basically anything. Next slide. So posters are a very important part of everything. You can make very good posters using any of the softwares we mentioned before, be it Illustrator or Figma. And also posters are a very important part in several competitions. So it's very important that you learn how to do that.
Yeah, and you'll notice that a lot of these posters, they may seem very fancy or they may seem very advanced, but essentially they just utilize the very basics that we just went over. So there's alignment, there's all of that. So yeah, all of that is very important. It may seem very, uh, I don't know, very like a nuisance, but it is very important. So yeah, it's good to have your basics very good.
Noted.
Adiva, you can go ahead.
You can also use these softwares to make kind of quirky designs, such as these ones here. They can be used for various purposes. For example, I wouldn't know why, but I could probably use these designs as stickers or or just logos. So that's that as well. Adibha, next slide. Okay, so these two illustrations, the one on the right is actually made by Adibha on Adobe Photoshop, and the one on the left is made by Sneha and Ananya, I think.
Sneha, Sneha. Yeah.
Sorry, Sneha and Sneha. Both the other Sneha isn't here with us today. So
She's alive. She's just not
yeah.
sure.
Okay. Next slide. This is another artwork. Photoshop is basically combining different elements from different pictures. You can basically merge small elements from different pictures to try and create one of your own. You'll understand more when you actually try and use the software. Okay, banners. If you get inducted into the design department, banners are something you will have to make on a daily basis, whether it's for social media, whether it's for the event. The past 2 years, the event has been online, so we haven't really been able to see a physical form of the banner. But this year, we're hoping it will be offline. So all the banners we make, banners, standees, they get printed and put around all over the school. Here you can see the 2016 version on the right side, and the left one is the one we made this year for the online symposium. Another thing using design, very important, especially in hackathons or if you're making a website, is the UI, the user interface. So these two are examples of web interfaces that members of the design department have made. There are, again, the main idea behind this is using the fundamentals, whether it is color theory, the contrast, what kind of colors go together. You can see the importance of white space and alignment in both of these examples. So as Neha said before, it may look very complex, but it's essentially the same thing and pretty easy once you get the hang of it. Next slide, please. This is also similar. It's a mobile app UI. Here is a car dashboard, kind of a car app. So we made this interface for what car app would look like once opened on the phone. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of our session. In case you have any queries, you can ask them at this link, edzin.co/2022 e-Lite queries. Or if you have any right now, you could just type them in the Q&A box or in the chat box. We'll be very happy to address them.
We have a question on the chat, which is, are we required to buy the Adobe Illustrator? Uh, we don't really expect you to buy Adobe Illustrator because we understand that it's very, um, it's quite expensive, to be very honest. And yeah, it's not a requirement, which is why we recommend Figma, because it is free, it is accessible, it is, yeah, it's really good. And this is not an advertisement thing for Figma, but it's just very free and it's very accessible, and it has essentially all of the tools that Adobe Illustrator offers. As Adibhav showed when he presented the Figma screen, it may not look like it, but there's a lot that Figma can offer, and features can be added through plugins. We'll go over that in the next session, and even if you could not follow whatever Adibhav was doing this session, it's all right. We'll go over everything on Figma and on Illustrator in the next session. Yeah, it's not necessary to buy Adobe Illustrator. Showways has put very detailed instructions on how to get the educator plan uh, and to install Illustrator. Oh, okay, thank you, Showways. Sorry, Showways. Yash, your first project is on Google Slides. We will go through that in a minute. The free Illustrator is safe. You can have a free trial for Illustrator, which lasts, I think, 3 days or 7 days. Um, now there is no uh, like legit free Illustrator now. Right? Yeah, we can get the drive link. That's right. The Q&A. Okay. Well, the 4 series of inductions design that we need to be submitted be carried out after all sessions or after each session. After each session, we'll give you a couple of days to complete the tasks that we give you. So, for example, this task will be released today, and the deadline is, I think, on 8th, because it's a pretty easy task. You have 4 designs. Adi have just demonstrated how to fix a bad design on slides, right? So we'll give you 4 designs, and you have to just use contrast, alignment, visibility, and all of the things that we talked about, and you have to fix the design. So that is on 8th, and then after each session, which will be weekly, we'll give you 1 week to complete the tasks. I have already signed into Figma with a starter plan. How should I switch to education plan? I don't think you can just go to figma.com and the educator wala plan. We'll give you all the links and all the instructions, but you can easily switch to education plan. You basically have to enter your institutional ID. If the starter plan wala ID is your school ID, then that's fine. If not, then just make a new account with your school ID. Then you have to apply for the education plan, and Figma gets back to you in less than 24 hours with approval of your education plan. Which site should we use to create these then? It's your choice, honestly. There's a lot that can offer that there is to offer. If you're talking about the main illustration, then we used Figma and Illustrator to create that. So there's a plugin on Figma, it's called Isometric, which lets you create great isometric designs very easily. On Illustrator as well, there's a lot of plugins and there's a lot of tools that you can use to create isometric designs. So it's really your choice. You can use either one. The problem with Figma is that it can't really handle very huge or very powerful designs. Neither can Illustrator, वैसे, so that's a problem that we face a lot. But yeah, you can use anything you want, honestly. We recommend Adobe products, we recommend Figma. Even Affinity products are nice. You have Affinity Designer, you have Affinity Photo. So all of those are good. If you make extra stuff, yeah, obviously you can DM it to us as you wish. We'll also create like in week 4, which is the last task before the final round. We'll ask you guys to submit any extra work that you've done. Like it's not compulsory, but if you have things that you want to show us, then that's always welcome. Yes, you can leave now. Yeah. Oh, let's just go over the task one. If your starter plan is signed in with your school account, then you do not need to make a new one. You just need to apply for the education plan, and then Figma will get back to you with approval. I use Photoshop for even text-based designs, posters, etc. Is that a problem? No, not at all. Photoshop is great. Adipa, we can move on to the tasks. Let's just go over it real quick. Okay, so these are the session 1 tasks. Uh, Agi, okay. So this is task 1. You can see all of these are beautiful designs. They're made by us, and you can see that we're very talented. So just move on. Task 3 bhi dikha do. हाँ. Yeah, okay, so these are all of the designs that we will give you, and your task is to basically clean it up, make it not bad, and yeah, that's it. That's your task. You will be given 3 days for this. I think that's more than enough, and then we'll move on to the more specific tasks. So week 2 will be sort of software centric. So Adiva already gave a demonstration of Figma in this session. We'll go over all of that again in session 2, and we'll also discuss how to do Adobe Illustrator. These are the two main softwares that we'll be using. How will you submit these tasks? There will be an assignment on Google Classroom, so you will be required to turn that in with your work. Right, so task 2 will focus on Figma and Adobe Illustrator. Then week 3 would be going over UI UX design. So that's a I think a big part of graphic designing as a whole. Even in competitions, there are a lot of hackathons and designathons and competitions that require you to make good and functioning UI designs. So that's for week 3, and then week 4 we'll be discussing branding and how to how to um, how to make a well-rounded design, and how a brand aesthetic really goes a long way in for your company or your institution or whatever it is that you're working for. Do we do one of the tasks or all four? All four are required. Yeah. I have some things I made on Figma. Can I share them with you? Yes, of course. As I said, on the 4th week, which is task 4, we'll also give you an option to submit any extra work that you've done or any designs that you want to share with us. And if at any point you need any assistance, it doesn't have to be related to e-Lite. If you have any personal project that you think could use inputs, or if you need any suggestions doing anything, you can always mail us at xn@tpsikb.net.
We'll be posting this presentation as soon as the session ends or latest by today evening, the recording as well as the Google slides. Someone asked when this project will be posted in the classroom. Again, we'll post it latest by tomorrow.
Can you add background pictures or transitions? I don't think transitions really play a role in designing the elements, so that's not really required. As for background pictures, I would say stick to like just basic fill, text, and all of that. I don't think that's really required. So just stick to the basics for now. We just want you guys to get a hang of what design is before we move on to softwares.
If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A or in the chat box. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. We hope you learn a lot through this induction process, whether or not you do get inducted into the department.
All right, thank you.